Hello everyone. Today the Dublin Task Force issued its report about recommendations for improving Dublin city centre. This comes on the back of the government who commissioned this report and task force back in May to say they'd have to report back within 12 weeks. Well, here we are 5-6 months later and the report is issued. Now the chairperson was Dave McRedmond, the CEO of An Post, a man who's on a very well paid six-figure salary and is overseeing the privatisation of the postal service in Ireland. So that sort of gives you an idea of where this report is going in terms of its role. Now it is important because this report and task force is only recommendations. So if any of it sees the light of day, I'll be very surprised. But again, this government is fantastic at spin, at public relations, at more media stunts, especially in advance of an election, to do anything practical about doing anything positive for Dublin City. Now it is important because this government and successive governments and local authorities has overseen the issues in Dublin city centre for years and years. And now the same people are coming back with a report to say they're great and now we're going to sort out and make Dublin better for everybody. Now, there was 12 people as part of this task force. There was members of the NTA, Gardaí, local authorities, business and trade union representatives and service provider representatives were involved with this task force. And some of the recommendations I'll just talk about briefly. One of them was 1,000 extra Gardaí over the next 3 years in the Dublin 1, Dublin 2 area. What the area needs is more resources, more community policing. And again, we've seen the big advancement of public order units because of the immigration chaos. And notwithstanding the Dublin riots that happened last year, in part due to the huge facets of inequality in Irish society that comes from back at the time of the financial crash and so much intergenerational poverty, especially in Dublin city centre area. They also spoke about a spread of emergency accommodation, international protection offices around Dublin City. Now Dublin 1 has the highest, and Dublin 2 have the highest concentration of emergency accommodation facilities. And it's interesting that they say that they want to spread around the city. This is, again, rather than deal with the underlying crises of why there is emergency accommodation and why people are being forced into these inhumane detention centres. But again, there's no answer about that. It's about spreading the service more equitably around Dublin City. They also said they wanted high density accommodation. This is another example of vulture funds coming in and destroying the city, as causing high rents, extortionate accommodation costs, forcing people into emigration, forcing many into homelessness. And this is again another agenda of this report that I'm sure the government will be licking their lips at. And they also spoke about acquiring vacant properties. Now this is very, very interesting because for years and years there is a vacant homes officer in Dublin City Council. What they have actually done is a moot point, but I suppose what's important around this is the fact that they're saying they're going to deal with vacant properties. We know the amount of dereliction in Dublin City. We see so many people have sat on properties for years and years and done nothing with it, fallen the place into total disgraceful conditions. But at the same time, the vacancy is a huge issue as well, and the governments have a lip service vacant home tax it's basically next to nothing to force these homes back into use. But again, it's great lip service and propaganda. They also said the GPO would be used for RTE, and now they've said today that it could be used for Garda headquarters. Now this is the most iconic building in Irish history in terms of the 1916 Rising, the proclamation that was read on the steps by Patrick Pearse. And it should be used as a museum to highlight the people who struggle for our independence, struggle for our sovereignty. But of course, the political establishment are against our independence and they're against sovereignty. So there'll be no chance of that happening under their rule and control in Irish society. And they also spoke about a congestion charge, a tourism tax to pay for this, and a CCTV in problematic areas, and more rules and more draconian restrictions coming your way as regarding Big Brother watching you, and bylaws to regulate soup kitchens. Fantastic report. And there will be a high level marketing team to take back the narrative from bad actors around Dublin City. Now, a high level marketing team, more propaganda, And they reckon that this high-level marketing team is going to change the narrative to push their agenda around Dublin City moving forward. So here we are, a bit of disaster capitalism in Dublin City, created by their policies. Now they're coming back with solutions, how they're going to resolve it and make it a great city, livable city. They're not going to talk about the inequalities. They're not talking about the years and years of poverty that's been going on in the Dublin inner city. They won't talk about the flat complexes that are being ran down, where there's no caretakers employed and no people directly employed in Dublin City Council, in terms of apprenticeships as well for young people and opportunities in those areas. Not mention of lack of social or public spaces or clubs, or lack of investment in clubs that people need in Dublin inner city. That wasn't mentioned whatsoever. Of course, it was all about pushing the same narrative that we've been come to expect. No mention of small businesses either, following the financial crash, lockdowns, the cost of living disaster, forcing them over the edge. Again, as I said, no mention of the streets in terms of the cleanliness of Dublin City, and opening up to more and more people, like O'Connell Street in particular, the street we should be fundamentally very, very proud of in terms of the context of Irish history. The answer is, again, to put more security staff on buses, private security companies, rather than having bus conductors. And that's the thought. So it's just more spin doctrine. Coming up to election, what would you expect? But the people that created this crisis are the ones now telling us how they're going to solve it. It's not the sign of lunacy. And I think that's important to note as well. So listen, thanks a lot for the support of my videos. We need to put a Dublin that's there for the people, a Dublin by the people, for the people, really grassroots led and community led Dublin, to what investment and what services we need in terms of putting the basic needs of ordinary people first, not having the huge chaotic policies that's going to cause a huge more divisions, inequality, and force people from the city can't afford to live there because of sky high rents, and notwithstanding the major issues of inequality as well that's got rampant around Dublin and across Ireland. So thanks for the support of my videos. Please press subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot. Take care. Slán.